So when you think about what it takes to be a successful trader, what comes to mind? Probably a bunch of complex charts, right? Maybe some secret, super advanced strategy? But what if I told you that for the vast majority of people, the real battle isn't with the market at all? It's with the person staring back at them in the mirror. Today, we're diving into why a staggering 75% of traders lose money, and the answer has almost nothing to do with finding the perfect chart setup.
Our story actually starts with a book, and believe it or not, a really bad case of the flu. The author of our source material was just a kid, stuck at home sick from school, when his dad handed him a copy of Liar's Poker. Now, Michael Lewis wrote that book as a cautionary tale, a warning about the greed and insanity of 1980s Wall Street. But for a kid with a fever, it wasn't a warning, it was a call to adventure. And just like that, everything clicked into place. This wasn't just some casual read, it was a lightning bolt. It completely changed his perspective, turning him from a regular kid into someone with this intense, singular focus. He had to be a trader. That book set him on a path that would eventually lead him to university in the UK and right into his first unforgettable clash with the market. Now, his first real taste of speculation wasn't some brilliant, calculated move, oh no. It was pure, unfiltered dumb luck. A massive financial hurricane was tearing through the currency markets, and he was about to wander right into the eye of the storm without even knowing it. So, picture this. It's September 16th, 1992, a day that would go down in history as Black Wednesday. The UK was in this desperate fight to keep the British pound propped up. But huge speculators, guys like George Soros, were betting billions that it was going to collapse. The Bank of England was throwing everything it had at the problem, buying pounds, jacking up interest rates to insane levels, but it was like trying to stop a tsunami with a bucket. The whole thing was about to come crashing down. And right in the middle of all this financial chaos, our guy walks into his local bank in Denmark. All he wants to do is exchange his life savings into British pounds for university. He had no idea what was happening. If he'd done it a few days earlier, he would have gotten a terrible exchange rate. But by sheer dumb luck, he exchanged his money on the exact day the pound imploded. And boom, that one completely accidental transaction netted him an extra £4,000, enough to pay for his entire university education. No doubt. But you know, luck is a funny thing. Around the same time, there's the story of an Englishman who, after noticing a hot dog in Paris was ridiculously expensive, figured the French franc was overvalued. So he made a bet, a $5,000 bet, that turned into an unbelievable £8 million. Genius, right? But here's the kicker, he eventually lost it all. Every last penny. And then some. And this just hammers home a crucial point. Making money is one skill, but keeping it? That's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so we've got these two wild stories, but what's it actually like for most people? What's the normal experience on a trading floor? Well, it's definitely not the calm, cool, and collected world you might see in movies.
It's more like a giant cauldron of raw human emotion. You see absolutely everything. People buying on impulse, selling in a full-blown panic. You see them clinging to losing positions, just refusing to accept they were wrong. It's this violent swing between pure greed and crushing despair. The author says for every one success story you hear about, there are 10 absolute horror stories you don't. It's an environment that's basically designed to find and exploit every single one of your psychological weaknesses. And look, this isn't just one guy's opinion. The author talked to a friend of his, a CEO of a London trading firm who's been in the game for 30 years. When he asked him about all the truly great traders he'd seen over 3 decades, the CEO's answer was, well, pretty chilling. He said he'd seen plenty of people make a lot of money, but he could hardly remember anyone who consistently managed to hold on to it. So the stories are powerful, but let's get down to brass tacks. What does the cold, hard data actually say? Because thanks to some new regulations, we can see exactly how bad the problem really is. In the European Union, brokers now have to come clean. They are legally required to display the percentage of their retail clients who lose money. And the numbers, well, they speak for themselves. Across the board, you see failure rates consistently around 75%, some even pushing 90%. Just let that sink in. At least 3 out of every 4 people who try this end up losing their money.
Okay, so this begs the million-dollar question, right? If everyone's looking at the same charts and using the same tools, why on earth is almost everyone failing? You'd probably think, well, they must just be terrible at picking winning trades. But you'd be wrong. Dead wrong. So a massive broker did this incredible study. They analyzed 43 million individual trades. And what they found is going to blow your mind. The average trader was actually pretty good at picking winners. In fact, they were profitable on 62% of their trades.
more than 6 times out of 10, they were right. So how is it possible they're still losing money?
I mean, think about it. If you're winning way more often than you're losing, you should be making money, right? It just makes sense. This is the central paradox of trading. The data shows the problem isn't their ability to be right. The problem is what they do when they are wrong.
And here it is, the smoking gun. That same study found that while the average winning trade made a nice little profit, the average losing trade was nearly twice as large. Just look at that difference. One single loss was big enough to wipe out the profits from almost 2 winning trades. All those small victories were completely erased by a few catastrophic losses. This, right here, is the mathematical fingerprint to failure.
Okay, so we know the what. It's those massive, uncontrolled losses. But now we need to ask why. Why do people let their losses get so out of control? The answer has nothing to do with charts or indicators. It's all about what's going on between your ears. The real difference between the winners and the losers is their mindset.
And this slide just nails the difference. The losing trader is always trying to be a hero. They fight the market. When a price is falling, their gut screams, "It's cheap, buy it." When it's rising, they think, "This is too expensive, I have to sell." They're trying to outsmart the trend. But the winning trader, they don't care about cheap or expensive. They see a trend and they just go with it. No emotion, no ego, just joining the flow.
And this is the trap, the hamster wheel that 99% of losing traders are stuck on. They spend 100% of their energy focused on external things, the perfect chart pattern, a new indicator, some holy grail strategy. They jump from one system to the next, absolutely convinced that more technical analysis is the answer, all while completely ignoring the real problem, their own mind. So what's the solution? The author calls it internal analysis, and he makes this fantastic point. For every hour you spend looking at charts, you should spend at least 15 minutes looking at yourself. This means figuring out what makes you tick, what triggers your greed, what makes you panic sell, where are your emotional blind spots. This is the work nobody wants to do, but it's the only work that actually separates the pros from everyone else.
So let's wrap all this up with one final thought. We've seen that the normal way of doing things, focusing on charts, hunting for secrets, trying to buy cheap, statistically leads to failure for over 75% of people. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. So the question for you is, what are you going to do to be different? Because the data is crystal clear. If you want different results, you have to start by thinking differently than everyone else.